episode 13 of the Dark Souls podcast, the Soulscast. I hate to say just Dark Souls podcast because it's Dark Souls, Dark Souls 2, Bloodborne, Demon Souls, whatever else is going to be coming out next.
Yep.
Anyway, this episode is the Dark Souls II Bestiary. Like we did with Bloodborne a few episodes back, we're going to talk about all the enemies in Dark Souls 2. Luckily, you've been playing through Dark Souls 2, so you've got a fresh take on it. I actually jumped into it for like 20 minutes today, kind of ran around, was looking up some stuff, getting a refresher on it, so I'll definitely have things to talk about. Again, I am Adam Blue, and with me as always is Shane Norton. He's more of the Dark Souls pro. I guess I learned a lot from him.
But I am like anyway, a teacher.
Yeah, I mean, that's how I really got into it I've been with you since when it came to Souls, since the beginning, when I got Bloodborne, and you commented on that Instagram post.
I know, that's true.
And I got inspired from your blog. I mean, that says a lot.
I'm glad it helped somebody.
Yeah. But anyway, bluegamer.net as well. I'll post, the RSS is on there, iTunes, where you can also get the Soulscast. SoundCloud has recent episodes. I'd like to get it eventually where I can have all of them on there. It just costs like $15 a month, and that's some indie games you can download, some downloadable indie games. Anyway, what I like to do when we start this off is just kind of talk about what we've been playing. This week I've been playing Helldivers, which is a PS4, Vita, PS3 twin-stick shooter. Very fun, very tactical, strategic. And then also, what was it called? Castle Storm, which seemed fun, but it's becoming too much of a mobile game, even though it's a full version. There's no microtransactions to this on Vita, but it still feels too mobile-y. Like I don't have an end game. It's just over and over grinding.
Yeah, that sucks.
And then last is Demon Souls, which I'll be getting further in. I am now in the second part of Defiled, Valley of Defilement.
Yep.
And it's just kind of a pain. The enemies are just annoying, and there's just a lot of walking around narrow passages. If I die, it's just from falling or doing something stupid. Whatever. It's kind of cool because it's more platformer-like than, standard Dark Souls stuff. Hoping to beat that. What have you been playing?
That place is not much fun. I haven't been playing anything new. As of last week, playing the same stuff. Mostly Dark Souls 2, Scholar of the First Sin on PS4. Been playing Lords of the Fallen. I actually haven't played that in almost a week, but otherwise, that's basically it. My wife and I were playing Arkham Knight. I think we both kind of realized last night, actually, that we're not really into it anymore. So I think we're probably going to put that on the back burner for a while. We just haven't been really invested in it like we used to be with Arkham City and even Arkham Asylum.
Is it like monotonous? Like it's the same thing over and over?
Sort of. I mean, it's almost like it's a fun game because the Batman games are fun, but it's like the exact same game as Arkham Origins, which is the last one I played. It's the same kind of fighting, the same kind of flying around. They put the Batmobile in, but the Batmobile is not that much fun. It kind of sucks.
Yeah, it's funny. So I haven't played too much of it, but I have Origins, and I couldn't play through it because it was like the same thing.
Yeah,
and I just didn't. I wasn't. And then playing, I have Arkham Knight on PC, and I haven't been playing it because I'm waiting for all the official newer patches to make it run good on PC.
Yep.
But from what I played so far, it does seem like more of the same, and the Batmobile sections are way too arcadey. I thought it would be more strategic. Or a way to fast travel and add strategy, but it's like sections where it's like, okay, now just blow up stuff. It's
exactly. And they force that into every single story mission. It's like, oh, let's get the Batmobile because we need to blow up a thing, or we need to pull down a wall, or we need to drive from one point to another. It's I don't know. It's not what I was expecting, I guess.
It's funny because when the Batman game first came out, there was the people that loved it and hated it, right? But even the hype went away quickly.
Oh yeah, yeah. This
Like,
game
I really do think
disappeared.
it's one of those where people liked it because it's Batman, but then people quickly learned, okay, this is... Anyway, well, let's get on to Dark Souls. So this is Dark Souls II Bestiary. It's kind of going the same flow of Bloodborne. We're going to start here with most annoying enemies and maybe strategies to beat them. Shane, I'll let you take it away with this.
Yeah, sure. I spent a little bit of time last night doing some of these notes. I have been playing through it. I just played last night. I just beat the Iron King, so I'm almost halfway through, not counting the DLC. So, I haven't played everything again yet, but I was kind of reading through the Dark Souls wiki, just trying to get an idea. I came across a couple that I just have been very annoyed by in the past. And I'll start with the spiders. The spiders in the Brightstone Cove area, like from the second bonfire after the encampment, before you have to like start jumping down to like the very bottom where you can fight Freya. They're annoying because they can swarm you, and they only take 1 or 2 hits to kill, but they're so powerful. They can kill you in 1 or 2 or 3 hits, and they're small, so they're a little harder to hit. But they've been annoying me when I play that area recently.
Well, I gotta say I'm surprised. Well, you do dual wield.
Yeah, and this
right?
one
Are you still doing it?
I am. Yep.
Okay, because when I played, I just had a torch the whole time, and they never came to me.
Really? Damn.
Yeah.
Well, all right.
Yeah, so
Okay,
they
so-
would like, I hate spiders, and so I was going around and I was lighting everything
Uh-huh.
that I could,
Okay.
and so I never had to worry about the spiders.
Okay. Well, that's a
But
good strategy.
You're dual wielding, so like, yeah. I mean, you gotta, I guess, go with what's best in that situation.
I guess if you're actually fighting them, then they can be kind of annoying. And again, they're not hard. They are not like intimidating. They're just annoying. They're small. They come at
Annoying,
you
yeah.
in packs. Usually, they can, for whatever reason, spiders, even the little ones in all these Souls games are, they're hard.
And it's funny actually. Now that I think about it, I remember when I was playing later in the game, and I would see places where I could get a bonfire, and I'm like, well, where's that bonfire? Because in that area, Brightstone Cove,
Yeah.
there is a kind of a hidden bonfire. You have to do some jumping to get to it,
Yep.
and there are spiders in there, and I didn't have my torch, and they got me.
Oh yeah, that room has like a huge
Yeah.
swarm of them.
Yeah, so I remember that. That was one where I didn't have my torch. I was not prepared. They got me. There was like nothing I could do. Yeah.
All right. Secondly, I have another specific enemy. The Shrine of Amana, which is a place generally people seem to dislike very greatly.
Yes.
I think they're called Amana Shrine Maidens. On the Dark Souls II wiki, it lists like the official names from the guidebook, but then there's also names that were on an official Dark Souls II website, and sometimes the names conflict, like the official website and the official guidebook.
Oh.
So I figured I'd go by the guidebook ones because, I don't know,
Okay.
it's an actual book. So
Yeah,
from the
I like
book,
that.
from the book, they're called the Amana Shrine Maidens, and they might be called like Amana Priestesses or something like that. But they're all the enemies in the Shrine of Amana that just shoot the homing soul arrows at you from like a mile away.
It's so cheap.
Yeah, it's cheap
So
and
cheap.
annoying. I think they've been nerfed a little bit. Like when the game first came out, they could shoot you from like all the way across the map, and I think they were even more powerful.
Wow.
But they released it. They released a couple patches where it doesn't. I think they either can't shoot it as far or it doesn't home in on you as much, and the damage is a little bit reduced. But like when it first came out, they were a lot more annoying. But they're still annoying because they can hit you from afar, and sometimes there's like 2 or 3 in the same room. You gotta like figure out where they are and try to dodge them while you're still fighting the other enemies that are up close.
Yeah. No, that's the only area in the game that I died so many times from an enemy, and it was that enemy.
Yeah,
That then they disappeared eventually. So it was like, well, okay, they're not here anymore. So yeah, that actually does say something, especially considering how easy they are to kill.
Yeah,
when you're right next to them.
Yep, they're also easy.
So that just means it's an annoying enemy.
Yeah.
Because it's not like it has any like type of attack it does that you have to like dodge in a certain way. You know.
No, it's just those soul arrows. So I mean, generally, I will. You can. I found shooting them with arrows from afar. They take like 2 or 3, 4 arrows, depending on how your bow skill is. That's something you can do. Otherwise, just run up to them. I think you can roll under their homing things. So just run to them, roll to them. Hit them 2 times, and they're dead. So they're pretty easy. They're just, again, very, very annoying, and cheap, kind of too.
Yeah, definitely. That whole area.
Yep.
I just hated that area in general.
Yeah, it was pretty annoying.
So what's the next one you got? I guess this is from the DLC?
Well, sort of. I don't remember exactly back from the original game, but again, I've been playing the re-release, the Scholar of the First Sin, and I just got through Iron Keep. And this isn't about a specific enemy, it's more about, I guess in this case, enemy placement and quantity of enemies. From the Iron Bridge bonfire, the run to the Smelter Demon, who is the optional boss in that area. It's not a long run, but it's very very tedious. You have to fight probably 15 of those Elan knights and Elan captains that have the swords, and some of them have the big giant bows. And
God, yeah, I remember that.
So you got to run through them, and I don't remember if there was that many during the for the regular game. I really don't think there was. But you have to run through them and kill all of them every time you go through. And Smelter Demon is pretty tough. So you get to Smelter and you die, and then you have to run through and kill them all again, and then you die, and then
that's right.
It's so goddamn annoying. And I just beat Smelter Demon last night, and I accidentally deleted my damn video that I made of it. So I can't even upload it to YouTube. I'm gonna probably use a bonfire aesthetic and just go through the area again and kill him. But
that's cool. Yeah.
Yeah, that's probably what I'm gonna do.
That's a good idea.
But I ran through that area so many times that I despawned like 80% of the enemies because I kept dying and I kept and it's not even something you can just run through and avoid the enemies, because there are so many that they gang up on you, like at the fog gate. You can run past them, and then when you're at the fog gate to go through to fight Smelter Demon, there's like 9 of them behind you just slamming you with all their weapons. So that's
You know what? I remember that, and I was lucky. Well, no, actually, I wasn't lucky. What am I talking about? I summoned. I think I had like 3 people with me, 2 or 3. That's what I just loved about Dark Souls 2. For some reason, that was just a fun game, and I could just see by myself that would have been hard, because with these people with me, they were taking out the knights.
Yeah.
And then we got to Smelter Demon, and I can kind of just circle around and be okay. All right, do you have any others before I kind of go through mine?
Yeah, I got one more special note about the and I'm not sure if this is an area that you even did. It's the Dark Chasm of Old. It's one of the covenants, like the Dark Pilgrims, I think. It has to do with that guy in the wheelchair. Did you go through any of those areas? Because
I did, and then I forget what happened with that. You had to jump down and fight someone.
Yeah,
you were supposed to, but I ended up being back somewhere else, and I didn't do it. I don't know.
There's 3 areas in 3 different parts of the game that you have to jump down in, and then it's like a dark cave basically, and you have to fight a certain amount of enemies, NPCs.
Yeah.
And they're very, very difficult and very, very hard. Thank you. I don't know. They're very, very, very difficult. There's old NPCs from older games, like Havel the Rock. I don't think it's really Havel, but it's someone that's dressed in all his armor with his weapon and all that. And there's other ones too. So you have to go through this area that's really dark. It's really there's really narrow ledges.
Yeah, I remember that.
So you have to kill all those enemies, and it's very hard because you can't move around too much. It's hard to see.
Yeah, to me, from hearing where you're at in it, where you're at in the game, and you've been playing it, I think I got to that place near the end of the game. I didn't do it until near the end of the game, so I was kind of over leveled, and so it wasn't too hard. Actually, because there's an enemy that does the projectiles while you're fighting an enemy that has super strength.
Yeah.
So it wasn't too hard for me, but I could see at a earlier leveling a low level, that could be pretty tough.
Yeah, so that's that's why I wanted to say. All those enemies you have to fight down there, all those like special NPC characters, pain in my ass.
Yeah, so for me, the ones I thought were annoying were the Pursuer. Now, it's because it would pop up at a certain time in the game where I just wasn't ready to die, and early in the game, the Pursuer can just slaughter you. Like, it's like I'm not at the point where I'm comfortable wearing. I am kind of now in the Souls games, but then I wasn't comfortable wearing lighter armor to be quicker.
Yeah.
So I was wanting to keep armor on, but you got to be quick with this guy because as soon as you get past him, he's already gearing up for his other attack.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, he's very fast.
And it would take a lot, and I would just die. And I hate anytime he'd show up and I'd hear that noise. I love how they do that noise. It's scary. I was like, oh crap. Another annoying enemy is the Cyclops.
Yes.
And this is it's the first enemy you see in the game. If you go to the left before you go into the hut with the witches, you see a Cyclops there. He does this move where he kind of like drops backwards if you're like going up behind him and hitting him.
Yeah.
And when he hits you, it will nearly kill you like in the first couple hits. Okay, sure. Annoying. Well, what about it's just hard? Maybe it's just hard and not annoying. Well, what's annoying is later on when you're at I forget what it's called, but it's the area you liked where the scientist was working on the different enemies.
Yeah, the keep.
Okay. And you have to fight. Like, there's like 3 of them or 2 of them in a cage, but then later on in that narrow hallway, they like bust through the doors and they will flatten you.
Yeah.
And it's like, how do you even know they're there? Like, that's so cheap and annoying. Like, when I first played, the guy busts through the door, I nearly die, and then as I'm nearly dying, there's an enemy NPC that spawns there.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, oh my god, what am I supposed to do? And that was just so annoying. But I gotta say, out of all the enemies, those were the ones when I saw them, I was like, crap. I was like, and it's different though, because there could be enemies that are hard, okay?
Yeah.
But like, you can understand their tactics and you can get past them. No, for the Cyclops, who knew if you were going to get clipped and then die immediately? With the Pursuer, he would just show up at some time when you were not ready, and he would just swoop in there and just get you with the sword. So, yeah, those are mine.
Yeah, I thought about putting the Cyclops on my list. I actually have him on the next part of our what we're going to talk about. Yeah, I do actually have him in the next part of what we're going to talk about.
So, okay, best enemy designs. I'm going to start by saying, I mean, you list some ones that I agree with you. Otherwise, I don't really think there are any like cool enemy designs in this game.
There's not a lot.
I think that's just something everyone just kind of knows. That's just how Dark Souls 2 is. Dark Souls 2 is more about quantity, more than quality. Not quality of gameplay, but just quality of the art style.
Yep.
Which, whatever. That's why I call Dark Souls 2 the action-adventure game of the series, But, okay, what are some of your favorite enemy designs?
I tend to go with monsters. I like monsters. I always have, and I've mentioned that before. And as I was looking through the Dark Souls 2 wiki, to like look at all the enemies, it like breaks them down by area. Forest of Fallen Giants, blah blah blah, and so many of them are just knights and soldiers and undead this and so it's like, man. So I really tried to find just some of the monsters that are cool, but I will say, the hide knights, the guys that are like dressed in white and they have like almost bucket-looking helmets, and they're usually just like sitting until you they're passive until you like attack them. I think they look awesome. They look.
Yeah, I agree with that one.
They look much different than I think any of the other knights, because the other knights are like brown or silver kind of gear. These guys are all white, and they move fast. They almost have like this eerie air about them because they just seem like they're almost out of place.
Right, they did. You know what? To me, especially when I first saw them, it really made me think of Dark Souls. It really seemed like a unique character, because Dark Souls, you come across the NPCs, they're all humans, they're all knights or whatever. But this one came across as that. When I first saw one, I thought this was an NPC or something.
It does look like it.
Yeah, so that's a very good one there.
Yeah, that one I'll say I like. I mean, all the other knights, they're pretty boring, really.
Yeah.
So everything else I have is basically monsters. I'll talk about what's called the Dark Stalker, which are the long-armed monsters in No Man's Wharf. They're kind of they're kind of like maybe greenish or bluish. I don't know. It's hard to tell because the area is so dark. But they got those really big arms and they look pretty cool. They're monsters. Not a lot of monsters in the game. And I remember the very first time I played through the game, I found an attachment with those guys because they're some of the first monsters you probably come up to in the game, depending on which way you go. So, Forest of the Fallen Giants is just soldiers, knights, big knights. Those like turtle kind of looking guys, and then the High's Tower Flame is all the big knights, and then even the Lost Bastille is basically just knights. So, those guys I thought were cool. And they're afraid of fire, so they're not too hard to kill. You can get them away with like a torch or something like that. So I like them a lot. The next one is called the Enhanced Undead, and originally it's in the Sinner's Rise. Scholar of the First Sin, he's replaced by a Flexile Sentry. If you go down to Sinner's Rise, and then there's like the area with all the water, you have to run through it.
So originally this Enhanced Undead was there, okay? Because I never played the original as you did.
Yeah, and I thought at first that was the only place they are in the game. But I was reading last night, and that jogged my memory as well. They are also in Aldia's Keep, at least one or two of them. I think it's in a cage. But he's like a big, giant, like, deformed humanoid kind of thing. It's not... It used to be a human, but it's like a big, deformed monster, and it has, like, scorpion qualities to him, I think, unless I'm, like, way off. But...
it has, like, spikes and stuff.
Yeah, and again, that was another one that when I played through the first time, I was like, this is a really cool enemy. I like this guy.
Well, yeah, see, I remember coming across that in Aldia's Keep, and I didn't know what it was because, I didn't see it in Sinner's Rise.
Yep.
And, it was, that just brings up, that is the only time I remember seeing it.
Yeah, so when I was playing Scholar of the First Sin, and I went down there, I saw the Flexile Sentry, and I was pretty shocked that they changed it and made it so different. And I was kind of sad because I thought that was a cool monster.
Well, that's kind of interesting because they're both, well, I guess you could think about it. Like, I try to think in Dark Souls terms. Like, Dark Souls, an enemy is in a certain area for a reason.
Yeah, that's usually
true. So in Dark Souls 2, they're both, if you think about it, they're both kind of like some type of mutation or abomination.
Yeah.
Flexile Sentry, it's like two of these snake lizard beings put together, and then you got this mutated undead dude. So maybe that's the similar qualities they have.
Yeah, that's true. That's a good point.
Yeah.
I think I have one more.
Yeah.
And it's the Cyclops guys we were talking about just, 2 minutes ago. Mm-hmm. They are... I love them. I think they look great. They're maybe my favorite looking enemies in the game. Just how they're big and they're hulking and they're very intimidating, especially the very first one you see that can kill you in one hit without a problem. He's got the big eye and that kind of mouth. I don't know, in a game
right. No, I agree. I agree with you how he looks. He has that look to him, and it's also the look is also it's this a fantasy monster being where you don't see much of that in Dark Souls 2. You see either like undead, or you see knights. But this time you see kind of like a fantasy element. This is like an ogre, something that you would think in a typical fantasy adventure action game you would be, fighting an ogre.
Yeah.
And I think that makes it interesting.
Yeah, I like his inclusion in the game because it's just nice to have something different as opposed to, again, all the knights and all the stupid undead idiots that you fight. But that's what I had for my favorite enemy designs.
Okay, and so my favorite enemy designs, like I said earlier, it's really hard for me to come up with stuff because I wasn't really impressed with much in this game. I will say the dragons, when you're in the dragon level, I forget what that's called. I really like the way the dragons look, especially in the sky, flying around.
Yes,
and,
they look
And then
awesome.
you fight, yeah, there's a couple. There's two that are on either side, and then you'll see one of them go to the bridge and knock you down if you don't happen to kill it first. So you get to see the dragon, and it looks like a dragon, especially at the end. It's an NPC and a boss if you want it to be. There's that other dragon.
Yeah.
Just the dragons look cool. And then again, other than that, it's like I can't really think of anything that like stood out as like just a cool looking. I will say those kind of ninja guys that kind of come out of nowhere. I think like in Lost Bastille, there's one of them. And then I think there's more of them when you're at that where is it? The windmill.
Oh, yep.
There's a few more of it.
Yes, there is.
I just like it because it's ninja-like,
Yep.
and that's kind of cool, But I think that's sad that I can't really, and you actually nailed it, I think, with your list. I didn't think of these, and it's funny because each one, Hide Night, Darkstalker, and Enhanced Undead, they each have their own unique look, and I think they are the most unique enemy designs. Really love Hide Night, like we said. Enhanced Undead. I remember when I first saw that, I'm like, what the heck?
Yeah, see, that guy's cool looking. It's it really is a shame. If I think back to our Bloodborne Bestiary episode, we were just talking about, oh, this enemy looks really cool, but so does this guy. Yeah. And then this enemy, even the townspeople, like the most basic enemies, they looked great, and they had, they seemed more meaningful and more. They just seemed more
felt
substantial.
Like there was a purpose. Like,
yeah.
Like we could look at it and feel there's a purpose. Whereas I'm at the forest area, in Dark Souls 2, and there's like a Ninja Turtle with a mace. And I'm like, okay, what? It's like, I don't get what's the lore here. Is there a sewer? Or is there going to be more of these guys hanging out? But I mean, I will say the Flexile Sentry was pretty cool. Even if it looked like it could have been better modeled and animated, because the arms almost seemed like they were sticking out there like Rock'em Sock'em robots.
Yeah, that's kind of true. They're always just kind of like out there.
Yeah, but okay, we'll kind of going back to what we were saying about Bloodborne. So enemies that best represent their respective lore. What do you think? What's your take on this?
This I also had a bit of a difficult time coming up with.
Yeah.
I know the general lore of the game, and I know bits and pieces of other parts of it. It was a little harder for me to figure out like how specific enemies tie into it. But I think I have a few. And again, before I go on, none of this stuff is my own like creation. This is all stuff I just I read online,
right?
Mostly from the wiki and like from other places I've read. So none of it's mine. I'm not taking credit for any of it. These are the ones that I thought were most interesting, and that I'll start with the enhanced undead. That's kind of hard to say, which we just talked about recently. He, according to the Dark Souls II wiki that I was looking at, it's they were Aldia's failed attempts to create dragons, which I think is pretty cool because, I mean, I'd say he failed pretty badly, first of all. But I think that's a big thing that he was doing, trying to recreate, I think, the everlasting dragons, because, they're immortal, and he wants that immortality. So I think that's the whole Aldia's keep. That's why all the monsters are there, because he's trying to make dragons. And I guess specifically these enhanced... Jesus.
No, I can see that. Enhanced Undead,
Enhanced Undead. They're a product of his failure. So I think that's pretty neat lore.
That's cool.
And
that is.
And again, his keep has almost all the monsters in the whole game, and you're led to believe he like created them, and they're just they're the failed byproducts of what he's trying to do. And even that ancient dragon that you were just mentioning at the end of the dragon area or dragon whatever the hell it's called.
Yeah.
It's not like a real dragon. I guess it's like that's also a recreation.
Wow.
That's if I remember correctly. I used to read up on it. a lot, but I believe that's not even real. And that people used to speculate that Aldia was that dragon, and since the Scholar of the First Sins come out, that's been proven false. But
interesting.
I believe Aldia is that Scholar of the First Sin, that NPC character. So there used to be lots of theories like, oh, Aldia might be this person, it might be this person, and Aldia, I believe, is King Vendrick's brother. I believe that's what he is.
Yeah, I gotta say, I haven't kept up much with... I want to, though. I want to go through it like I have with Dark Souls and Bloodborne, but yeah, I'm not familiar with the lore at all.
Well, that's fine. The lore,
okay.
I like the lore. The lore's good. I think the things, like the whole dragon thing is good. The whole theme of the game of, things dying and then things being built on top of the death, and just a big cycle of death and, resurrection almost, I think is really cool.
Well, yeah, and then the way you explained Aldia's Keep reminds me of Seath the Scaleless.
Yeah.
And how he was doing experiments to create scales, and that's where the crystal golems came from.
Yeah.
And then you randomly find them in the Darkroot garden. Yeah. That reminds me of that. Yeah, that's kind of... I think they could have expanded on that, too. I really think it's interesting how you said you found an enhanced undead in Sinner's Rise. And they changed that. I think that's strange. I would have thought about that more if I saw that. Because to me, the Flextile Sentry just seems like a being that thinks for itself, especially because it was a boss. So it's an enemy that could be anywhere because it wants to.
Yeah.
Whereas an enhanced undead, it's kind of something like, why would this want to be here? How did it get here?
Yep.
So, okay, that's pretty cool. I'm trying to think. I can't, off the top of my head, think of things. And I was kind of looking it up. I was going through the enemies before we had this, and nothing really grabbed me as like, oh, why is this enemy here?
Yeah, well, you see, that's part of the problem with the game too, because so many of the enemies are just the knights and the soldiers and the undead, hollows and all that. So it's like you can't really have a whole lot of lore behind this knight compared to this knight, compared to this pack of 5 undead soldiers. Like,
I think they reserve that for the bosses. For instance,
I think so.
Optional boss where you can fight Dragon Slayer Ornstein.
Yep.
Right? Yeah, Ornstein. Where he's in the game.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, why would he be here? But he's kind of a boss character. They obviously flesh that stuff out for reasons. But yeah, what I'm curious about is the Pursuer. His name is Pursuer.
Yeah. And
he pops up to kill you. Is there a reason you're being pursued in Dark Souls 2? That I don't even know.
Yeah, that is a good question. I want to say he might just pursue. Oh, damn. He might just He might just pursue like any kind of undead. Like, you're there, so he's pursuing you. That sounds kind of lame, though. I don't know. All I know is there's multiple of them. You fight him as the actual, the boss, but you can fight him, especially in the Scholar of the First Sin. I've noticed they throw him. There's one in Lost Bastille that wasn't there in the original game, and there's one somewhere else too. I don't remember. And then as you go on, you can fight him. I think after the Smelter Demon, if you go back to the Smelter Demon's room, you can fight him there.
Yeah,
and
that's right.
I think in Drang Lake Castle, there's an area where you can fight 2 of them at the same time. And again, there might even be more of them in the Scholar Edition.
Yeah. No, I don't remember that with 2. I mean, I possibly just missed it. There's things I've missed, like apparently the merchant that you can bring back to Majula. I had no idea about. You just keep talking to her.
Yeah. Yeah,
I did that actually earlier today.
I don't think I knew that my first playthrough. You can bring back basically every character. I think every merchant NPC back to Majula. If they don't go on their own, if you just exhaust their dialogue, you talk to them enough, and then they they go back. I do have one more thing about lore that I wanted to talk about, and I wanted to keep this podcast on the main game. I'm going to dip into the DLC a little bit, though, because I'm going to cheat. Because
sure.
I couldn't think of anything else. But in the second DLC, the Iron King DLC, you find a memory that you can go into. You know, kind of like you can go into the Giants' memories later in the game.
Oh, yeah.
And you end up fighting Sir Alon at the end. Alon, he's in like samurai garb. He has a giant katana. Very, very difficult, but pretty fun fight. He, all the enemies in the Iron Keep, like in the main game, are called Alon Knights and Alon Captains, and they look similar to the Sir Alon you fight in this memory, and they fight it a similar way. And I think I remember reading that the Iron King and Sir Alon were like very close at one point. So I think he either like trained his knights to fight the way that his friend Alon did, or he named his knights after Alon because they fight in a similar fashion. It's something like that. But these knights that have nothing to do with this Iron Keep otherwise, that are named after some guy that's long dead, are in this Iron Keep. So I thought that was kind of interesting. The way they
see, that's cool.
The way they tie that back together. The DLCs generally have some pretty cool lore, pretty good stories, and the way they tie back into the main game, I think, is very well done.
Yeah, and see, that's what I need to do. I've gotten through about half the DLC, and I need to go back and finish it, and that could be its own podcast about the Dark Souls 2 DLC.
Yeah, I think
so far, I love what I'm doing in the Dark Souls 2 DLC. It is awesome. I think I'm going to get to that after I beat Demon Souls.
Yeah, I think that'd be a good idea. I think Demon Souls should be prioritized.
Okay. Well, anyway, that we're going to cut a little short. The reason we've been behind with the podcast this week anyway is just because so many things going on this week. But at the same time, with Dark Souls 2, we want to get the Bestiary out of the way. There's really not much going on with it. But there's some stuff to talk about, like we did.
We've both been very busy, and maybe this was a good episode to do for a busy week where we had to kind of cut it a little short. We're at like about 40 minutes. It'll probably go another couple. So, it's I guess it's good to get this one out of the way. There's not as much to talk about as most other things. And I kind of realized that when I was doing my research for this, especially comparing it to the Bloodborne Bestiary, which we just did a month ago. And, the enemies really just suck in this game. And
they do.
It's disappointing.
But I would like to say, for those that have made it this far, I think it would be cool if you would comment either on bluegamer.net, Twitter, wherever, but let us know what enemies you like and why, and maybe defend some just because we think they're all trash, but not really. But no, if there's any you think are awesome and a reason, maybe some lore behind it, because sometimes if you understand the lore of an enemy, they're a lot more appealing, a lot more interesting.
Oh yeah, sure.
Just like Sif, you might then feel bad for them, but
yeah,
I would really like, if you guys out there listening could comment and let us know. I'm curious what you guys think. Maybe Dark Souls 2 gets a bad rap, and later on in the future we'll realize it's really a masterpiece.
Yeah, it definitely gets a bad rap, and I generally defend it any chance I can get because I think it got killed, since it was released, and even up till now people still say it's like the worst game of the series. I've been maintaining for almost throughout this entire podcast since we started that Dark Souls 2 is my favorite of the series. I think I'm gonna have to change that back to Dark Souls 1 now.
Awesome.
I'm still playing through Dark Souls 2. I love it. I really am having fun with it, but it doesn't quite compare to just the awesomeness and just that feeling that Dark Souls 1 has, which is kind of what you've been saying too.
Yeah, just from listening to me talk about it, it kind of just brings all that back, and it's like, wow, that has some mysteriousness to it.
Exactly.
Anyway, well, all right, well, we're gonna go ahead and close this one out, guys. Thanks for listening, and we'll talk to you guys in the next one.
Bye bye.